Hey, did you know there are two types of far in English? One has to do with distance, whereas the other has to do with degree or extent. In Nepali, to the second one, you call had. For instance, how far is Pokhara from Kathmandu? You answer in distance, it is 206 kilometers. Whereas, how far have you progressed with the work? Here you don't answer in kilometers or in meters or in distance. Rather, you talk about degree. So I've come very far. The term very would signify extent or the degree here. So now let us practice to understand the difference between these. So farther has to do with distance, whereas further has to do with degree or extent. So her house is dash than mine. If you take a look at this example, so it talks about distance, right? So the answer would be her house is farther than mine. Whereas we need dash investigation to fully understand the underlying problem. Now, can you measure the investigation? Investigation has nothing to do with distance, but rather it tells about we need more investigation. And one thing, further also works as more in such cases. Okay, so as adverbs, if you take a look, who wants to hike? What's your take? What's your answer? Wants to hike farther or further? So hiking has to do with covering distance. So, as walking is involved there, who wants to hike farther would best define the sentence. Likewise, I couldn't tolerate him any. So toleration has got nothing to do with the distance. So it means that you cannot tolerate him any further or any more. Likewise, the difference between farthest and furthest are similar to what we discussed earlier. So farthest has to do with distance, whereas the furthest has to do with degree. And it is also similar to the term most. So let's take a look. Tristan da Cunha is the last inhabited island from human settlement. So let's take a look at this picture. In the picture, you see that there's Africa, there's South America, and there's an island, a very isolated island, a very remote island, and this is the remotest. It means this is the farthest from human settlement. Okay, so that's your take, all right? So his ideas took the discussion to the last point. To what type of point? So you can't measure that, right? So hence his ideas took the discussion to the furthest point. As for adverbs, so he threw the ball, the dash in the competition. So throwing the ball, you can measure it in the javelin throw, and that's how the winner is declared based on the distance that they've covered, the javelin has covered, and whoever covers the most distance wins. So she threw the ball the farthest in the competition. Whereas her research goes the dash in explaining climate change. Now, explanation, you cannot measure the explanation. So her research goes, you're talking about the degree, the furthest in explaining climate change. Now, for further tutorials and lessons, stay tuned to Sujan Pariyar.